Fuck you.
Perfect.
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Socially Unacceptable But Sober podcast. My name is Dino. I am an alcoholic.
I'm Jonathan. I am an alcoholic.
Mad alcoholic.
There you are.
And
Gotta be
tonight we have a
fucking
special
mid-sip.
guest. Who are you?
Hi, my name's Kerri, and
Kerri.
I am also an alcoholic.
Hey.
Carrie has
It's
been
almost
a
like you snuck up on her.
Carrie's been
like-
a
You said I wasn't
consistent
going to be on.
commenter. I love it.
Love it.
Love it, love it, love it. What's going on, guys? How's everybody doing? How's everybody's day? How's everybody's week?
Let's address the elephant in
It's
the room
fucking
first.
Tuesday.
It's been 2 weeks since we
Been 2
last
weeks.
recorded.
A lot going
You
on.
want to talk about that a little bit? About how we're probably going to do once a month, maybe? I don't know. We haven't really.
We haven't decided.
talked
Yeah,
about
we'll talk about it. But
We'll clue you guys in later.
yeah, you'll see a post on Facebook or
First, we gotta
something
get a
like
clue.
that.
We just
Yeah.
need to get our clue
Are you
first.
hearing me? Am I too far?
Nah, you're good.
You're pretty far, man. That's pretty far.
Nah, you're good, bro. You're good.
Yeah, that's.
What
Let
are
me
you
hear
trying
now.
to say?
Yeah, see, that's
He's
nice.
trying to stir some shit up.
Oh, I have to actually correct something because we got something really wrong on the last episode.
Oh, the movie?
The movie.
Yeah, we talked about that.
It was 48 hours, but we kept saying Axel Foley was the character in the movie, and I was completely wrong.
Yeah.
It was
Beverly Hill.
Reggie Hammett was the character in 48 Hours,
Right.
and we kept saying Axel Foley. We did mean Reggie Hammett. We just kept saying Axel Foley. Although Beverly Hills Cop was a great movie.
No.
And now I
That
got the
fucking
nickname.
line
Scene was
is
from-
Beverly Hills Cop.
Right.
We kept saying 48 hours.
Right, and then it turned into 48 Hours.
Yeah.
So our apologies.
Oh, I just kicked the thing.
It's just Jonathan's.
I'm not.
That's what you got.
Didn't fuck it up.
So sorry for that mistake.
Oh, you really don't?
Unforgivable.
So don't forget to subscribe, follow, share the show with people you know. Give us your sobriety dates. Don't forget, they're not just yours, they're ours. If you need help, let us know. Merchandise, all that good stuff. We're going to move right to the comments because we do have a guest tonight. And it's going to be 2 one-time bros because Carrie is going to have one, and I think it's mine, and I'm going to have one.
Yeah.
So we're going to move right to the comments. Matt, what do you have for comments?
Oh. Asshole Manny.
Yeah, Manny, we love you.
He needed to correct me.
That's right, I told him to.
You did say, so there was a date, what was it, 6/29?
Yeah,
And I didn't say 29. I thought I did. Dino had my back, though.
yeah,
So fuck you and Manny.
I don't even remember.
Yep.
I do.
She got it.
yep.
So you did say 6/9. I expect Matt to kick my ass on Wednesday. But you did say 6. Hey, thanks, Manny, for saying it twice. Then we got our boy Chuck, who's no longer Southwest Florida.
No way.
Yep, now he put his government up there. Unfortunately, this drunken junkie spent too much of my early recovery focusing on the pebbles. Oh, this is about the video. Remember the video?
Uh-huh.
I convinced myself that the motorcycles, cars, all the material things meant that I was doing good. The pebbles became an addiction in itself. I was sober but still sick. Now that I focus on the golf balls, my life is more peaceful. Thank God for Facebook Marketplace. So I could recoup some of the money I wasted on pebbles.
Yeah.
Keep on keeping on. Sending love from Southwest Florida. Namaste, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So that means he sold all his guitars that he don't know how to play? This dude bought like 5 guitars, doesn't know how to play guitar.
If he commits himself to something, he's all the way in. It don't matter what the fuck it is. And then we have, a nice little comment from our guest, Kerri.
Hey.
Can I get tattooed live while I'm here?
No, not happening.
Yeah.
Not happening. Wah, wah,
We do have a
wah.
machine in the house, though.
Yeah.
And we got another artist in the house. Not this guy.
And then we got Roy Bowers,
Oh, shout out to my
Roy.
sister for being a champ. Taking
Yeah.
my first
Oh, yeah.
tattoo.
or for being delusional, one or the other.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Kind of
At
peer
least-
pressure. You know?
Thank God for socks.
Yep.
Gotta start somewhere.
That's
Exactly.
right. That's
All
right.
Roy Bowers. Glad I heard about your eyelid surgery, Matt. Last time I saw you, I thought you were
Smoking crack.
peaking on peyote.
He's just so interested in everything we have to say, Roy. It's fucking great.
Roy's the best. Oh, I need double dips.
Double dipping Roy.
From goofballs to golf balls. It's about that God-given 180-degree turn in my life. From building and rebuilding the facade while I was dying inside. My 3 problems. Me, myself, and I. My 3 solutions. God, like-minded spiritual beings, and reading the black words on the white pages of a blue book.
That's right.
Like, I always like how Hal says it. We got a program, and this is the book that goes with it. You know?
Yeah. Read the
And we got a comment from Miss Crystal. Dang, guys, excellent. First thing I learned in sobriety is acceptance and the fact that I had to want this sobriety for myself, not for anyone or anything else, for me. And it's been an amazing journey. I like Alyssa's topic too, vulnerability. I guess because I'm so open about my own life, maybe I already show myself as vulnerable. What I would like to know as a topic is how you get out of that numbing feeling phase. I have so many days I am just numb, no feeling at all, like I'm on autopilot. Does anyone...
I'm not touching anything, bro. Don't look at me like that. It's Kerri.
Like I'm on... Wow, he told quick.
He just threw you right on the
You already
bus.
know you can't do no work with this kid right now. He just let you know. Does anyone else feel this? How do you get out of it? Thank you, Jonathan, Matt, and Dino. Rocking as always, gents. And then we got Miss Gigi. Thank you, gentlemen. Great message. Love the 5 things, Dino. My sobriety, well, she don't say my. Sobriety date, 4/15/96.
Damn, long timer.
Still freaking amazes me. So, 4/15 just passed. So happy anniversary.
Happy
Gigi.
anniversary.
Yes.
And
Good job, Jeej.
That's it
You
for
are
the
a positive
comments.
example. Thank you so much for the comments.
it's crazy.
I commented back to Crystal's. I actually commented her too. Said it would be really interesting to do that. Yeah, it's small, tight, quick, fast, you know? So Crystal's numbness, man, and I've experienced that in recovery. And it was around the 5-year, 6-year mark where you put in a lot of work and you almost mentally fuck yourself going, okay, everything's good now, but it isn't. Right? And then you get into this numb feeling where it's just like, damn, it's just like repetitious, regimentation. Yeah. Meeting. Raise my hand. I know what this guy's going to say. I know what that guy's going to say. And it starts to feel a little numb. I was told more God, less me. Dive into the spirituality part of it more. Because you don't really get a lot of that in a meeting for that hour.
Let me ask you one question.
Ask me, bro.
So, that whole everything starts to sound the same. You know what this guy's going to say. So, I think everybody experiences that. But tell me, like, okay, you became a different man in meetings. You're going to tell me you got that same mentality?
No.
Right. After you've been around for a little while, you go through those phases of
Right.
hitting a plateau,
Right.
spiritually stunted, bored. But I can hear the same guy say something 100 times and get a different feeling,
Yes.
get a different
Yeah.
emotion, hear something a little different, and
Yes.
it's the same fucking guy.
Right.
So it's on me. That's
All
not,
the time. That's what I said.
not- right.
That's what I'm saying. You know, a little more God, get into the spirituality of things. And I always talk about big dick. Remember?
Yeah.
You can literally verbatim say what this guy's going to share. You already know what he's going to share. He's got to share about when his wife got into an argument and he left the house and he was going to show her and he was going to drink and the store
Pepsi.
had the cooler and it was condensation and it was sweating and it looked so good. And then he looked right to the right and it was a cooler of soda. He said, maybe I'll just drink a soda. I was like, dude, I could tell this story, bro. You know, I've heard it like 1,000 times this week, you know? And that day came for me. And I was like, holy shit.
You're not really talking into that thing.
Holy shit, I said, man. And I had a soda. You know what I mean? And I was like, that's it. I don't care anymore. And I get to that point. 'Cause it was early in recovery. You know, it was like my first year and change. And I was ready to call it quits over a dumb argument. You know? And I was in the store, same thing. The beer's right there, and I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, holy shit, holy shit, Dick. And I went up to him and I was like, Dick, thank you so much for sharing that in every freaking meeting you go to.
4,000
times a week.
322 times.
God, I miss that old man, bro.
You know what I love that he always used to say? This is the best game in town.
Best game in town. That's right. Best game in town.
I love hearing that every week.
So, guys, again, thank you so much for the comments. They mean a lot to us. We're going to move on to the next, which is our guest. Kerri is going to tell us a little bit about her experience, and then she's going to go into her strength, and then she's going to go right into her hope.
You didn't like my outline that I wrote at 3 o'clock in the morning?
This guy.
You're
outline?
mental.
Yeah.
He got a lot on his fucking mind, this guy.
So, Kerri, tell us a little
Yes.
about yourself. Tell us what happened
Where's your paper?
and what it's
Well,
like
I
now.
put it over there.
You don't need that.
I'm
right.
gonna wing it.
Freestyle.
Wing it.
Right.
I love speaking, and I never have a paper, so why should I need it now?
right.
Kerri, alcoholic.
Kerri.
My sobriety date is September 20th, 2018.
Nice.
And I generally cry when I share, or tell my story. So I don't know if I'll do that in this setting.
Nah.
We didn't bring tissue, so you better not.
So no, I'll just let it
There you go.
roll.
I love
fly.
Mike's hairs
Roll
today.
it down.
Let it fly.
Do me
Yeah.
a favor over here. Oh, sorry. Watch your left hand, you Italian, because it's covering the. No, not you, Kerri.
Oh.
You're good, because it's covering the camera.
You can
Okay.
see that?
Yeah, I can see it, man. I see everything.
All right,
bro.
you just make little birds. Okay, so growing up, my dad was an alcoholic. You know, once upon a time, I feel always funny. That's how stories start. But
Let's sit on the table.
so growing up, my dad was an alcoholic, and I thought like having beers as a kid, for breakfast when I
Yeah.
was a kid, was a normal thing. I had 2 brothers, older and younger, so I was in the middle. My parents got divorced when I was, 13 or something. And my dad got sober when I was 16. They basically told him, if you drink anymore, you're not going to live much longer. Right. So that was when I was like 16 or so. So then when I turned 21, my dad passed away. He had cancer, starts cirrhosis, that whole, song and dance thing. So he passed away. And my drinking didn't morph into anything crazy just yet. I was the one in the family who would always pick up the wine. We had an Italian family. I was the one at Easter and Thanksgiving and every other holiday that would fall asleep right after we ate, and it wasn't the turkey from Thanksgiving. But Carrie would always bring the booze. One year, we would always pick names out of a hat. And I was super upset that my cousin, who wasn't 21 yet, got me a bag of nips for Christmas. And I was like, what is this, But clearly, it was because Carrie enjoyed drinking. So that's kind of like where it started. And my mom used to say, if you continue, you're going to end up just like your father.
Yeah.
So I met my husband in 2003, and we dated for about 5 years. Got married in 2008, and my son, I got pregnant with him right away, pretty much. So he was born in 2009. And while my son was little, and, we would drink, like before my kids came along, we would go to the bar in town and you drink on the weekends. Like, it wasn't out of control by any means, but I enjoyed it when I did. And so my son came along, motherhood, things started to kind of like, I was miserable, but didn't want to admit it to anybody. So I would drink more, started hiding it. My daughter came along in 2012, and this is where things really started to like spiral for me, because I didn't realize it at the time, but it was a lot of postpartum. So when my daughter was born, I had already 3 years with my son. So we had this great relationship. He's only 3, but we had a great relationship. And then she came into the world, and I was like, who are you coming in and taking me for my son? Like, even though I gave birth to you. But I didn't realize it was like postpartum.
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed that I felt that way or ashamed that I stuffed it. And it wasn't until years later that I came to that like aha moment that's what that was. And I said it at rehab, and my husband was like, I'm glad you finally said it out loud, because I've known that for a long time. But he was waiting for me to like realize it.
Yeah,
So,
because he couldn't have possibly said that.
no.
You would have killed him.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Pretty much. Yeah. So she came around, drinking kind of started to get out of hand, and it got to the point where I knew I had a problem, and I told everybody in the outside world that I had a problem, almost to like safeguard myself. Right. Like, oh, everybody's going to say Carrie's an alcoholic. She's not going to drink at this party. But then I was hiding it everywhere. So it was like I would tell everybody else that I was, in it, and I would dabble in it.
It's okay.
I was in the program and I would dabble in it and never stuck with it though. So my marriage started to kind of get wonky, and we tried marriage counseling a little bit, and 3 different marriage counselors, I think it was, and one of them said, "I'm not going to see you guys unless Kerri starts going to a program." So I went to my first
Program.
experience, strength, and hope meeting, and
Nice.
my husband took me, and it was in Thomaston, and they handed him the reading. Like, we walked in together and they handed him the reading, and I was like, I think that's for me. And I cried the whole time, and I was sobbing and everything. And then I ended up becoming a chair at that meeting, and still, while I would pull into that meeting, I'd have a bottle of vodka under my seat. And I thought I was doing a really good job at hiding it, but
We're always the last one to know.
Always
You
the
know
last
that,
to
right?
know.
Around a bunch of alcoholics.
But I got to the point, I don't like to say that, my husband basically, cash was a big trigger for me. So he became the receipt guy. He wanted money, to know when I had it, what I had it from, wanted me to hand in receipts for everything. And I was working at the time, I worked for this brokerage firm from 2006 to 2014. And they ended up, my first stint at rehab, which I laugh at saying it's my first stint, because when I checked in to Mountainside on my 34th birthday, I was like, what are these kids not getting in this rehab? There were all these young girls that are like, oh, this is my 5th time in detox and all this stuff. And I was like, this is going to be a breeze. I'm going to be in and out of here in 30 days.
No problem.
I'm going to go home.
Fixed.
No
fixed.
problem.
2 weeks in, my mom calls. You get one phone call. She's like, are you better? I'm like, yep.
Yep.
And
Cured.
I don't do any aftercare program. I go right home.
Perfect.
I'm back to mom, wife, worker, employee, whatever, worker. And just throw myself right back into life. And my kids are little, and I probably stayed sober for a few months before that little voice, I always called it the little voice, would trickle in and be like, you could do this. You could hide it.
Kerri, just one.
Come
Kerri.
on,
man.
So I
you're
would be
grown
like,
up.
and I got the most crazy, I always talk about the insanity of this disease of, I chased that high of trying to hide it from my husband and the family. So I would go into the store, get cash back, and then say, oh, I forgot to get a receipt. Or I got smarter. I went in, paid for gas inside the gas station, had a receipt for $40, only pumped $30, got $10 back, had a receipt though.
We know our tricks.
Yep. And then I even found a liquor store that on the receipt, it was the guy's name. Instead of such and such liquor store, it was. So I would go there and I'd be like, oh, I just got candy bars, whatever. Crazy. And I just would chase that. And I would hide it in all different places of the house. I would hide it in the oven mitts. And, I would just drink at night. Everybody'd go to bed and I'd go downstairs and my dog would follow me down looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, don't look at me like that. And it just got worse and worse. And to the point where I got fired from the job that I was at. And there's an interesting part to that later on. But my boss looked at me and she said, after 8 years of working for her, that when you see yourself the way that I do, you're going to be more successful than me one day.
That's right. Boom.
I was like, I don't understand what this lady sees. I don't get it. So I was like, okay. So I went back to Mountainside February 2014 was when I got fired. So I went back into rehab, my second stint. And we were like, oh, let's go back to where they know you. They have your file. They know everything. No, it didn't really help. So I went through there. I was unemployed when I got out. And I don't remember what I did in that interim from February till June at my third stint in rehab. But at one point I did get kicked out. My husband kind of got sick of the drinking. My brother was in prison. My younger brother was in prison. And I had gone down with my mom. He was in federal prison to visit him. And I drove the whole way home. I had my kids in the back seat with me. She was driving with her boyfriend in the passenger seat. I was pouring vodka into a cup in the back seat. She had no idea.
Nice.
And drank the whole way home. And when I got out of the car, I basically fell over. So my husband was like, I don't want you here. And so I moved in with my then stepmother-in-law and proceeded to drink a handle bottle of vodka that night and went to leave the next day. So I fell over in the the driveway, throwing up on myself, very attractive.
Yeah.
And I
Sexy.
ended up, and the guy across the street was an EMT, who I found out years later never drank after that night, because he found me, and he said now that was the reason why he got sober. But anyway, I ended up at Bristol Hospital with a 0.48 blood alcohol level,
Nice.
which is insane.
So a little tipsy.
Yeah, a little.
We know how to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not going to quit. So, and I was like, my husband was like, don't you get embarrassed? And I said, I don't remember. He was like, you were trying to pull the wires out of your arm. And I said, but I don't remember. Like, that's the thing, is like, I was completely in a blackout. And my blackouts got more and more prevalent as the years went on. So anyway, I shipped down to Florida. This time it was like, we're getting serious. We're sending you to rehab in Florida. So I did 63 days down in Florida. And that rehab was like polar opposite of Mountainside. Mountainside's bougie.
Oh, you didn't go to a bougie one down south? No,
so
shit.
this was like strip you down and build you back up again.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This guy would get to the root cause of why you were drinking, and just basically beat it out of you. And like I got down there, I had a boy and a girl. I was married, dog. And they said, you think you're got it so good, like stand on this chair. And I had to say, my name's Carrie and I'm not okay. And it was the hardest thing for me to do, was to do that. So I went through the 63 days down there, thought I was good, moved home. And that was like that was in the summer of 2014. So I started working at Connecticut, which is an insurance company in Connecticut. And
Where is that again?
Yeah.
In Connecticut?
So my brother that was in prison ended up passing away. So in October 2014, which he had cancer, testicular cancer, and because he was in prison, he didn't get the care that he needed, and it spread. He was 30 years old when he passed. So I lost my dad to cancer, then my brother. Not like that's an excuse, but I did not grieve those two because I was drinking at the time. So from that point on, in 2014 to like pretty much when I got sober, it just spiraled. Like the hiding got worse. My son would know the instant I drank, he would say, Dad, Mom did it again. He would know when that change would happen in my face. They say, you eat different when you, and I'd be like, you guys are crazy.
Get
Like,
twisted.
you don't know. Yeah.
Your whole shit twists.
Yeah, and I didn't understand it till about 8 months sober. I saw a documentary, The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, which is the wrestler. That documentary was like a pivotal point in my sobriety because he did that. He relapsed in that documentary, and his face changed, and the way he talked changed, and I was like, that was like a light went off. But anyway, so the blackouts got more and more prevalent. I had a DUI. When I was working at Connecticut. I left one day and bought a bottle, and I got to the point where I was drinking like whatever I could throw $5.25 at.
Yeah.
Pints of Popov, whatever. And I picked up a bottle, dumped it in a Wendy's cup, had a brand new car, and I was driving down where Tunxus is in Farmington, and the next thing I know, I come to, and all of the airbags in my car were blown, but there was not a scratch on the outside of the car.
Huh?
Yeah. So there was like cheeseburger stuck to the ceiling and like gross. And so the cop pulled up. Yeah. It was right by Five Guys. Yeah. So the cop pulls up, I get taken in, and he looked at me and he goes, I don't know what you're going through. He said, but there's 2 car seats in the back of that car that should be a reason enough for you to get your shit together. And I was like, oh my God. So still, that was not enough to make me. That was in 2015. Of course. So it continued on, and the blackouts got worse. And it all kind of came to a head. I joined Thrive Church in Terryville in the summer of 2018. And
What brought you to church?
Well, it's just another girl in the program said, when I was in rehab down in Florida, they took us to this church, and it was awesome. It was like it was non-denominational. They had a band, and I went up to the band after one service, and I was like, oh, do you guys have a CD? And they were like, they were doing covers of all these. I didn't know, what do I know? So, but it was all like rocking out like music house. This is crazy. And I worked for WCCC. I was a girl of the rock 100 years ago.
No kidding.
Yeah, and back in my prime. So I got out of rehab in Florida, come home, and WCCC is now K-Love. Like, if that's not a weird freaking thing. But while I was down there, I went to that church. So I was looking for something around here that was that kind of church. And I never was a church goer. Like, when I went to Florida, my son my mother-in-law is a saint, and she's wonderful, and she's a big church goer, and she's like the office manager of the church. Anyway, she was like, let's pray before you go to church, or on the flight to Florida. So I'm standing there, and she's holding my hands, and we're about to pray, and I open my eyes, and my son's in the car behind her, and he's like, what the fuck? Like this. And so I'm like trying not to laugh. Like, so that's what it was. It wasn't like I was a religious person by any means, but this girl, Brenda, said, I have this church. It's awesome. You should go. So I went, and it was like the most emotional thing. I was like crying. They did a baptism the day that I was there, and really moving. So I started going there, but I had tore my ACL, and I don't remember if I was sober at the time, but I tore my ACL. So I was on painkillers, and I never had a pill problem. I dabbled in other things when I was younger, but never a problem with like pills. But when I tore my ACL, that kind of, I started to realize, okay, maybe you do have a problem with painkillers, because I that's when the craziness of being an addict or alcoholic, like, I told my husband, hide the pills, and he didn't do a very good job with that. So I would go to like Rite Aid, and I'd find a pill that matched the same melatonin, looked the same as the painkiller. So I'd swap them out, and then who does that?
I used to do that with baby laxatives to cut cocaine. Like, oh, it looks close
Yeah.
enough.
So, I mean, it's just
Why is it
crazy.
shiny?
The insanity of this disease is just crazy.
Yeah, it is.
So I ended up joining that church, and it was right around that same time. So everything came to head in September of 2018. And I don't know if I had my daughter with me. I don't know. I think my husband was at baseball with our son. And all I know is I woke up in the morning. It was a Thursday morning, and woke up from a blackout. And I guess my husband was screaming at me, like, but she couldn't wake me up. So she thought that I was dead. And she was like in between us, telling him, don't yell at mom, kind of thing. But I didn't wake up until the next day. And so he's getting them ready for school and pulls a bottle of vodka out of my daughter's backpack. And he was like, and he looked at me, and I go, that's not mine.
Yeah, put it on your daughter. It's easy.
Yeah, shit.
I don't know where this kid's getting this
I don't know
shit.
what the heck. No. But so before this, I got to the point where I would black out so often that I wouldn't know where I would hide stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd put it in the notes of my phone, not to give anybody ideas, but that's what I would do. And so I said, this is where my bottle is. And I reached into the garbage way down in like a cereal box, and I pulled it out. And my husband quit drinking years before. When I started having a problem, he just put it down.
Right.
So we knew it wasn't his, and nobody else in the house clearly drank. So I said, I don't know where that bottle came from. I had no idea. And so I went out to my car, and there was money crumpled up all over my seat. So I had left Wednesday night in a blackout. I don't know if I had my daughter with me. I don't know which liquor store I went to, anything. And it was like, what the frig, Kerri? Like, you have to do something to stop. Like, something's got to give.
Right.
So I drove to church that night. Back then, Thrive had church on Thursday nights. And I walked in, and the greeter, her name's Mary Beth, who now is a wonderful friend, she said, are you okay? And if you ever ask a woman if they're okay when they're not okay, watch out. So the floodgates opened, and I was like, I'm an alcoholic. She didn't know me from anybody. And she was like, what the fuck did I just get myself
Why did
into?
I ask?
Right. Like, can I just rewind and walk away? But I just cried, and I was like, I relapsed my daughter, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I'm going to pray for you after service. And I was like, good luck with that.
Yeah.
So she took
Get
my
in
hand.
line.
Yeah, right? She sat with me the whole service, held my hand. I heard everything I needed to hear. Of course, it always happens like that. And she took me outside in the rain and prayed for me, and I haven't had the urge to drink since.
Wow.
So crazy. So that was 6.5 years ago.
It's not too crazy, though.
It's-
Today we know it's not so
Right.
crazy.
But that little voice that used to trickle in after, I'd beat myself up for 3 days after a blackout, and then I'd be like, you could do this again. Or I'd get the case of the fuckets, or my husband would say something, and I'd be like, yeah, you don't know, I'm going to hide it. And so then I'd get like off on the fact that I got away with it.
Yeah.
Or thinking that I did. So bad. So like 5 or 6 months after this incident outside of church, it dawned on me like, oh my God, maybe something's really happening in here. And I threw myself into the program, the Monday night meeting that we were talking about earlier. I started going to, and it's interesting as I get into the sobriety phase of my story, how God starts to, I call my higher power God. Mm-hmm. He starts showing up in certain ways. So when I was in rehab down in Florida, even though, you're in Florida. A lot of people were from Connecticut. So my roommate down there was from Mystic. There was a guy there from Morris or Bethlehem. I forget, Morris or Bethlehem. Anyway, so he was from here, and he was in my group. So every day we were in group together, him and I. So I go to a meeting, the Sunday Night Morris meeting, 2 days after this whole incident with church. And who's speaking? This is 4 years later.
Wow.
But that guy that was in my group. So if that's not God hitting you over the head, like, hello, pay attention. And I started going to Monday night. My sponsor goes, she wasn't my sponsor at the time, said, I think you should start making coffee. So I was like, okay, making coffee. She would come with me every Sunday, meet me there early, or Monday, package up the coffee in the little Ziploc bags. I was like, why am I even here? Like, she had it all set out. And it was to get me there, and it was to keep me there, and it was to introduce me to people. And so I continued on doing that. And other than all the other times getting out of rehab, I would get right back into life. I started doing the meetings. And instead of feeling bad about going to meetings, I would take my kids with me. And my daughter, I was saying earlier, she would throw a bag over her shoulder and say, oh, I'm going to a meeting, which was funny because,
How old was she?
She was, 2018, she was 6.
That's adorable.
5 or 6, yeah. And so now people see her, and she's taller than me at 13, and they're like, wow.
Jesus.
And, yeah, she's tall. My son's 6'2", he's 15. So, and her and I have a much better relationship now than, she always hears me tell my story, and she's like, you didn't want me, did you? And I was like, no, it's not that. It was like that postpartum thing really messed with me, but I realize now what that was. So now I'm very big in the program, and I was working at Connecticut for a few years, and I started to feel squirrely there because I felt like I was in a sales position and I didn't have that structure that I needed. So I left Connecticut and I started working for another brokerage firm in May 2019. And I started to realize how unhappy I was in my marriage. So we had tried those marriage counselors. He stuck with me through everything. People were telling him all the time, why are you still with her? You should leave, blah, blah, blah. And in true addict and alcoholic fashion, I said, I don't think you're ever going to change. You're miserable. I want a divorce. So without him even being able to rebuttal or say, let's do anything, I was like, I did all the paperwork. I didn't get lawyers involved. I didn't want to bother him with that. I felt bad enough that I wanted the divorce. And I did it all, and I submitted it. I bought a condo in Terryville. I moved out, and that was 2020, May of 2020, right when COVID hit. So I was living on my own for the first time ever, and I started to realize who Kerri was. Like, it's so funny that you start to realize who you are. But I did, and I started to really realize, like, who I was and the type of mom. I wasn't anymore like Pete's wife. I was Kerri, and I got to start really working the program and the steps and all of that lovey-dovey stuff that happens as you're first sober. And the years went by, and my husband and I stayed friends. We were like, we had the kids 1 week on, 1 week off. My daughter was with me more than that. We started to like hang out and see each other through baseball. And I started to see like his walls come down because he's not dealing with Kerri the alcoholic anymore. Right. He's not wondering who's he coming home to, who's the kids with, are they safe? And, I would get the kids together and like put them in the car and go, let's go to Cumbies. And I'd drive up on a curb. Like, that's how bad and insane it was. So he was always on guard, and he became the way that he was because he was dealing with an active alcoholic all the time. Right. And I didn't know that that's what it was. I just said, you're miserable. You're never going to change them out.
We create these people.
Sure do.
Yep.
And I never thought about what did Kerri do to the kids? What did Kerri do to Pete? What did Kerri do? Anything. So once I was out of the situation and living on my own, I started to realize, like, holy cow, like, you really blew this, trailblazed through this. And we got back together 2 years ago. I moved home, and we're not remarried, but we're back together. And it was almost like that never happened. It was almost like a blink in the whole scheme of things. But so that's one of the, the promises they say. So it comes true. And I was working at that insurance company that I started at in May 2019. Fast forward to August 2022, I bumped into the boss that fired me 8 years prior. And she said, do you want to come home? And I said, I sure do. So I started working back at the place that fired me 8 years ago in August of 2022. So that kind of came full circle. My mom got diagnosed with cancer in February of 2023, and she passed away last year.
Sorry to hear that.
Here's where the waterworks come. But I was able to be there, like 100% present for her. And, you know, she used to laugh. Like, my mom was a clown for kids' birthdays, and my dad was a magician growing up. And so it kind of explains a little bit. And so when she was really sick, I would go to her house and stay with her, and she would like be leaning over the sink, and I'd help her with bandages and stuff because she, whatever, bed sores. And she was like, "Do you ever think you'd be able to think you'd be taking care of your mother like this?" And I was like, "Mom, all the shit that I put you through, this is the least I could do." Yeah. She was picking me up in Hartford at 28, like just crazy stuff. But I was able to be there 100% present for her. And, you know, when she, like a week before she died, she was in the hospital, and I said, "Mom, are you scared?" And she said, "No." She's like, "If this is my time, it's my time, and I get to see Dave, my brother, again." And I was like, holy cow, like, I'm scared. Like, this is crazy. Oh, yeah. But I realized after she died that I was like mourning my brother, my dad, and her all at the same time, because for them, when they died and I was younger.
You never went through it. You never
right.
processed it.
At his funeral, my lips were stained red from all the wine that I was drinking.
No.
So it's now this past year has been like, I'm feeling it more. And my therapist used to say, "You wouldn't know a feeling if it bit you in the ass." And now it's like I cry at the drop of a dime, like, you know. And he also tells me not to journal. I know a lot of people talk about journaling, but he always tells me don't journal because you could bullshit your journal for me, for this alcoholic. So I don't journal. But I've really stepped up my meetings lately. You know, people say, "Oh, you still go to those meetings?" Yeah, because
I like to.
I've been in a really bad funk these last few weeks. And the only thing I know how to do to help that is throwing myself into the program. So I'm trying new meetings. I'm going, you know, I've been to a few different ones. And like trying to be open about the fact that I'm not okay is huge, because before I would say, "Oh yeah, Carrie's alcoholic and everything's good." And that clearly wasn't the case. So, you know, life right now is not peaches and cream, but I'm trying to get there, and I'm sure it will. It's just a season. Somebody did tell me once, like you were saying, once you hit that 6 year mark, it's like you don't hear about people. You hear less and less of the 7-year anniversaries, the 8-year anniversaries.
Joey said that to me, man, and that's when I hit my 5 years. He said that to me, and I was like, I remember it to this day because it's pumped my game up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to be that statistic.
Neither do I. So somebody said once, I saw a guy speak, his name's Jarek, and he since passed away, but he worked at Mountainside, and it was the best speaker I've ever heard. He was funny, he was angry, he was emotional, and he like went through the whole thing throughout his whole story. And one of the things he said was that addiction took things I didn't know I had, and recovery gave me things I didn't know I wanted. And that has stuck with me ever since, because if you told me when I was first getting sober that like the things that happened, I'd be going to church, you know, all these things that have now since come, you know, through, I would be like, "You're crazy," you know? And there's no doubt in my mind that God played a hand in that, because that day at the church, you know, the things I've seen through the rooms, these little God smacks, I call them, like seeing Xandra 2 weeks ago and watching her on your show and then meeting her 2 days later, like, what is that? Or I was at a meeting and somebody said, "Oh, do you know Matt?" And I was like, "No, but I'll be on his show in 2 weeks." Like, it's just so many little things like that happen, and there's no explanation for it.
Let me ask you though, now that you're sober, now that you're in this process, how easy is it to look back and see where God was working all along?
Yeah.
The whole time.
The whole time.
Another thing is that you're so open and seeking that that you see it faster.
Right.
It's not so hindsight
More open
anymore,
to it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I look, even like when I was younger, and like things that were said throughout all of those experiences, even in rehab when I was down in Florida, like meeting people from Connecticut, like that's not normal. And they'd go, "Oh, where are you from? Bristol-Bury?" Because they said everybody in Connecticut's a Bury, from a Bury. So it was like Bristol-Bury, Thomaston-Bury, and all this. It was like an ongoing joke down there, but
Nobody's down there is from there.
Yeah.
You hardly ever meet.
And the sobriety down there is amazing.
Awesome.
'Cause
We
they
send
have
a lot of people down there.
so cool. I went to First Step Behavioral Health, and it was like the best I wish I stayed sober after that because, like, I feel like I would have been able to go.
Everything happens for a reason.
Right.
That's right.
Shouldn't say that.
Just
Shouldn't
weren't
should
ready.
myself.
You weren't ready.
You weren't ready.
Right. So it took what it took, and
right.
I'm so forever grateful, and I don't know.
This is, I sit on the other side of the couch from a lot of people that are starting their journey, and this is the stories that I love them to listen to, because I hear, like your share and your story, I hear all the beginning part of it day in, day out, and rarely, I'll see that person stick around to share the rest of their story like you have, and it's so beautiful, but it's so not what we're used to. You know what I mean? Like we're used to that instant gratification, that instant medication, and this stuff it churns out if we wait for it. Like I share about my first job that I ever lost was in sobriety. I didn't know what I was going to do. I asked guys in the rooms, "What am I supposed to do?" Just keep coming. And I'm like, "How am I going to pay my electric bill?" And they're like, "Just keep," and it worked out.
Right.
You see these things that start to line up in your life. And it's like, through sober lenses, you start to see all the things in your past that were lined up in dots and had to go to where, I often say the same thing. I wish I got this earlier, but I needed to do what I needed to do. And I see a lot of people on a daily basis that they got a lot more pain and suffering in front of them, and it sucks, and I can't stop it. But maybe, just maybe, they can listen to something like, what you just shared and get some inspiration and save themselves some pain and suffering. Maybe,
Yeah, and I love that my kids got to witness it and still witness it. And like,
oh yeah,
my daughter's, like I said, goes to meetings and the recovery events at New Horizons, and they all know her. But even talking to my son about where he's at 15, and I try to be open with his buddies. I'm like, guys, if you're going to try stuff, I get it. Yeah. But if you ever feel like you're not safe, you know who to call. That's like right. My mom used to say that to me all the time, and I'd be like, I don't know. And then I'm calling her at 28 because I can't find myself out of Hartford. Like, I don't know where I am. But you have to have that open-ended conversation with them, and it's great that they know. Like, one of his friends came over one day, and he was like, aren't you better? Don't you go to meetings? And I'm like, I'm not better. I was like, what's in your bag? And he's like, I swear there's nothing. And I joke with him.
Smell something.
Yeah. But, it makes me nervous that it runs in my family. Like, are they going to get there? But all I can do is be there for them.
That's it.
And for whoever, anybody that I'm, in my, vicinity that's
Genetic
struggling.
pool,
Yeah, family members, anything. And I'm not one of those, like, anonymous people.
Right.
Right. Why should you only see the bad parts of me? Like, why should my face be all over the police blotter? Why should my face be all up in the mud when I'm doing dirt? And when I get sober, I got to keep that a secret.
Keep it a secret.
And so, I know the program's anonymous, but I'm sure not. Like I'm open and willing to help whoever I can.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. I post it.
At my the job that I currently have now, like literally within the first week, the whole entire company knew about me. You know what I mean? But it's like,
wait, the job that you currently have now?
yeah,
on
I
your
still
fucking
have
couch?
it. I still have
Still
it.
got it. How long has it been? 9 months? 10 months? 12 months?
June 3rd will
4
be
years.
1 year. I've been out of
46
work.
years?
Oh, I was like,
I got hurt,
following.
so it's been a long road.
Yeah. Dino got hurt.
Yeah. I actually anyway. So no, I actually stopped it yesterday. I said, listen, we're done with this, dude. We need to assess and move on. I'm not doing
different,
it. We can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting paid here
Squeezing your wrist.
except for me.
Yeah.
So anyway. Where the hell were we? Oh, so yeah, I'm very open too. Very open. I don't make it a point to be like, hey, by the way, just want to let you know I'm a recovery alcoholic.
Right.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the way society is today, it comes up so much more.
All the time.
And especially when you're starting a new job, hey, we're going to have a party. I'm like, nah, I'm good, man. I'm good. I don't drink. Oh, why you don't drink? Well, I'm a recovered alcoholic, and
I smoke rock.
Joe
Rogan, I don't know if you know, but I smoke a rock.
And it's like, we attract.
Yeah.
We don't have to promote, we attract.
Right.
And like everywhere I go, I always get, hey man, can I talk to you for a second?
Yeah.
I think I might have a little problem.
Yeah.
Well, if you think you do, you're more than welcome to hang out with me for a little while, dude. I'm not going to say you are. That's on you.
That's your story.
But, come where I go, and then you can make your own decision. And, I haven't really had any success with that, but that's okay. You know what I mean? But I'm very open.
Yeah,
Recover
people have
out
reached
loud
out
for
on
sure.
Facebook and messaged me, and asked questions and brought people that I never would think in a million years would reach out and say, I think this or that or
Yeah.
and it's like if I didn't share what I share, then I don't think obviously that never would come about. But I joke we make fun of ourselves the best that we can. That's one of the best parts of being sober is that we're able to now. And like I joke about it at work all the time. We're on a Zoom and the girls we have a few girls that are remote and we'll just I joke about like I went to a Rascal Flatts concert once and I was the designated driver for a bunch of women in my office and my mom had to come pick us all up from the concert because Kerri didn't stay sober.
I was always the best designated drunk driver.
Yeah.
Driver.
But to be able to do things now sober
Yes.
is the best. Like I took my daughter to Jelly Roll.
You remember
Teddy
everything.
Swims. I've seen him twice. I've met him a couple times. And I even went to a Tim McGraw concert by myself, sat right in front. I bought the ticket the day before, and it was like the best experience. I was watching, my feet are sticking to the floor. You get that smell, that rotten.
Stagnant.
Love it.
But you're watching everybody else act like complete asses. Women are trying to get his attention. I'm like, he's married. This is pointless. But
Yeah.
like they don't care. They're all with their twisted teeth.
And that used to be you.
Yeah, probably. I don't know.
That's the thing. I do the same thing. I'll be like, my wife drinks, and sometimes we'll go out and stuff like that. And we go to the Elks Club because it's right down the street sometimes. And I'll just sit there,
Quality drink.
Yeah. Quality.
At a reasonable price.
Yeah.
high quality place.
We can smoke
and I just
cigarettes.
just look around and I'm like, Jesus, man.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Yep.
I'm like, I can't be here no more.
I grew up at an Elks. My dad used to bring us every Saturday.
Well, they have a
in
jukebox,
Hartford.
and as soon as you start putting Slayer or Cannibal Corpse on their thing, they automatically want you to leave. So that's pretty cool. So I just
And we
do
can
that.
still make dumb decisions in recovery too. Speaking of musical guests, I don't know if you recognize whose signature that is right there. Does that ring a bell?
No.
It says ice.
I was going to say, does that say
Vanilla
ice?
Last year, that guy's handiwork.
It's kind of nice.
Kerri,
Remember the whole show.
I want to say that you literally killed it in like record time. Like,
Oh, did I?
It's no. What I'm saying is, I have a hard time wrapping it up in a short amount of time. You
we
ask
know.
anybody that's ever come
Likes
here
to
with me
fucking
share.
Yeah.
talk.
Let me grab
it's
my
like,
notes.
Yeah.
It's like on and on and on, and it's like we're so passionate and in love with the whole entire story that we want to get our point across. You know what I mean? So I really watched you really hard, and I'm like, I have to learn from this because she's killing it right now. And you like literally went through the whole thing in like 15 minutes. I'm like, I have to start doing that.
You notice she didn't take a breath.
She
I
didn't
know.
take a breath.
I
girl
try
was
not
on
to
it.
talk
Yes,
so
and it's
fast,
cool,
but-
and it's cool.
Oh.
But
No, you
I'm
did
sitting
amazing.
there. I'll have cheer people going.
Yeah, I'm gonna start bringing blow darts to meetings. He's done.
Oh, I don't feel good, guys.
I love it.
Sleep.
Last
It's-
time I shared, I was all over the place, and my dates were all messed up. But so I tried to be a little more prepared.
I just like Matt was saying. I always tell my story wrong. Ashley has to correct me. Tell everything wrong.
I shared last Sunday. Was it Sunday before?
Yeah.
Sunday before. I kind of did it
Last
different.
Sunday was Easter. Sunday
Wrapped
before
it up
that.
quick. I
You
wrapped
did
it up
good
quick.
that
yeah,
week.
yeah.
You changed up a little bit.
I just went right into the steps, man. I
yeah.
just went right into the steps. Everybody here drank and drugged. We all know
Yeah.
that shit. You know what I mean? I always like getting in touch with my pain.
I thought
That's
you were going to say something else.
this is what keeps me sober on a daily basis is my bottom. I think about it
Yeah.
every single day. I get real vulnerable to it. I like to feel that pain. And I like to get that across in a meeting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
People
usually
listen to
cry.
that, man, you know what I
Usually
mean?
I cry when I.
So that was an amazing. You did a fantastic job. I
wanna-
have a few questions
Yes.
I do want to ask.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Did you
there we go.
ever find out what you hit that your car didn't have any?
Oh, so yes. Well, I didn't hit anything. So they sent the black box. I had a Kia Sportage. It was a week old, and the guy at the dealership, they did not total it, called me Wheels from that moment on. But they sent the black box out to Kia, and they said that at the time of the airbag deployment, my car was going 23 or 27 miles an hour. So funny. So they think that what happened was I swerved into oncoming traffic and then swerved back enough to take
The
the car up on
sensor.
2 wheels and back down.
And that
Cost
shock.
all of them.
yeah.
But I was parked neatly on the side of the road.
Yeah.
With 5 guys.
Did you
stuck
catch
to
a DUI for that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good
I
work.
did.
Those are always fun.
I ended up going to some place, Amethyst Foundation in New Hampshire. Instead of doing Wheeler Clinic for 12 weeks, I got sent to the Amethyst Foundation, and I continued to drink after that. So,
Hell yeah.
but
Nothing scares us, man.
yep. Now
Nothing scares us.
sober, I can scratch my rims right here on the street.
Yeah.
when I pull over.
Fuck yeah. One of the things you were talking about in your story was the effort we put into hiding. And not even necessarily the drink, but everything else, the emotion, the thoughts, all the conniving,
get high off it.
everything. And when you pulled up, when I pulled up and I waved and you walked, I was talking to my cousin about that very thing. It had nothing to do with drugs and alcohol related, but just life and how some people have that need to want to hide and don't have that ability to be free and open. I'm an open book. People look at me like, how the hell can you say the shit you say?
Yeah.
Because I don't have to hide from
Nothing.
it anymore.
Zero.
I've accepted who I am. I am very in touch with who I was. And I believe I'm on a solid journey to becoming who I'm supposed to be. So there's no need for that. All the energy, like that's a full-time job of I'm gonna lie to you, then I gotta remember the lie I told him, so I'm gonna lie to you, and then I got 3 lies cooking, and I'm that guy with all the plates. And eventually they all start crashing because I can't keep up, you know?
Yeah, and hiding the booze too. Like I would come home, I'd have it like stuck in the back of my pants pocket or whatever, and then I'd go right into the bathroom, like that's not suspicious. And then I'd come back out, and my husband would go right into the bathroom, and he'd come out with the bottle that I just threw into the sink, and I'd be like, "Come on, let me just have a sip." And he's like, "No," as he pours it down the drain. But
Jesus.
I used to throw mine over the fence where we lived in New York, and I'd throw it over the fence to the neighbor's yard. And then one morning I got so pissed because this neighbor had the gall to throw it all back over every single day. And my wife found it. I was like, "Those aren't mine. That's an asshole neighbor."
Damn littering neighbor. Oh, yeah, hiding. And then I could relate to hiding it so good that I can't even find it.
Oh, yeah.
that's why I started with the notes in my phone.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
smart.
That is a good one.
But then it's like the things that you hear too later. Like I don't like giving anybody ideas.
Yeah, but they're going to come up with it.
Yeah.
anyway.
Like somebody said in a meeting, "Oh, I used to run my vodka through a Brita filter," and I was like, "Why didn't I think of that?"
Does that help?
I guess to
Damn.
distill it more. I don't know. But even like nowadays, the stuff that they have, like the amount of money I used to spend at the Big E on beer, and now they have all these seltzers.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
like,
They even
I
have
can't
the masks now, right? The vapor alcohol.
Never heard
Oh,
of that.
never heard of
sounds
that.
crazy.
Yeah, look it up. You don't even have to drink
don't even
anything
look it
anymore.
up. Don't even look it up.
You walk
Nope.
up to it. It's a vape bar for alcohol. You walk up, you put a
I
face
saw
back on.
Dunkin' has like an alcoholic coffee.
They do?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, say
We got to be careful at the Dunker.
Not at the
Official
store,
sponsor.
but they had it at the Big E, and then they had. I don't think you can get it at like a Dunkin'
Oh, at
store.
Dunkin'. Yeah, it's a Dunkin' flavored coffee.
But
just
yeah, that was
I'm
that was
glad.
an amazing story, man, and really glad to have. I'm so happy you took the time to be here.
Yeah,
that
it's
means
awesome.
a lot to us. Experience, strength, and hope, man. This is our story.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think about when you share your story, when anybody shares their story, and I'm always like, they're always like, I don't even know how I'm still here, and I don't even know why this happened, and I don't know why. And I stopped asking why. The reason why I'm here is because I'm supposed to be here, because it says it in some of our literature. Our primary purpose is to be here, stay sober, and to help.
Help someone else.
That's my primary purpose in life. And man, what a gig that is, man. I'll take it. For the life I have today, I wouldn't
Yeah.
trade it for the world.
That's why I can't stand when someone comes around, they get what we've been so freely given, and then they want to fuck around and not show up
Right,
anymore.
right.
The old saying, right? You come to the program as a drunken horse thief. You learn how to not be drunk, but you're still a fucking horse
Still
thief.
stealing horses.
You know, so I'm not working on the individual that I was that brought me here. I'm changing one little thing. And there are people that maintain dryness. I will
Yeah.
never say sobriety, but I don't want that.
No.
If I'm not happy, joyous, and free, I might as well be drunk because I can't pretend to be that guy unless I'm all the way in this
That's
thing.
right.
Yeah, I want to be the batshit little old lady at meetings when I'm
You will
older.
be.
Yeah.
both.
I do a Sunday night Zoom, and she's not batshit crazy. She's a hot ticket, but she's 87 years old, and she's got 40-something years of
Yeah.
sobriety. And she is on this meeting every Sunday night faithfully, and she's awesome. And I love seeing that. And some people don't understand, like, oh, you got so much time. Why do you still go? Because.
I keep it real simple. I say, A, the world's a better place because I don't drink.
Damn straight.
B, that's the place that I found life, and that's where all my family are. That's where all my friends are. That's my whole life. My existence is because I go there. Why the fuck would I stop?
But you have a long enough conversation with that person, and they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know what I mean? Oh, so you want to know why I still go to those things? I'm never well, man. I'm never well. I need help.
Yep. And they say you have to put somebody said that at a meeting once and I hated it. You have to put the air mask on like in your plane.
That's right.
Before you can help other people. And I didn't get it. And then I was like, oh, I heard it like 3 times because that's what your higher power does. It makes you hear things enough till you hear that it sticks. And I was like, oh, so I can't give this away unless I'm taking care of myself.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And then there's no greater joy when you're working with that person and then they start saying and looking the way you did when you got the, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And you're like, yeah, man, yeah, you were getting it.
Or when they say, when you came in here, you were a train wreck. I'm like,
yeah, oh yeah.
Yep, I was.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whew, train wreck. All right. That was amazing. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to our next segment. Again, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, share the show with people you know. Sobriety dates, they're not just yours, they're all of ours. If you need help, let us know. Merchandise. Comment. We're going to move on to our next segment, which is what's going to be the next segment. Are we going right into the one time?
The one time. I got no good news.
You got no good news. You got no motivation.
I always got the motivation. But
You always, yeah.
Yeah, we'll move on. So because we have a guest tonight, there's going to be 2 one-time bros. And the first one goes to Kerri.
Okay.
And I know you've been brushing up on this one.
I have.
And shit, man, just hearing your story, I know you got 1 or 2 in the bank.
Well,
that's
I was
for sure.
going to use the DUI or the alcohol level of 0.48 is my one time. But this one time, so I waitressed at a establishment on the Berlin Turnpike where they wore orange shorts for 15 years. And that's where I met my husband. And there was one time that I got to the point where I would like have a styrofoam to-go cup and I would cut the tea bag string off of a tea bag and I would hang it through the lid, but I'd fill it with wine so it looked like I was drinking tea.
You are awesome.
But we used to drink like after hours and play cards, depending on who the manager was on it that night. And one time, and I'm sorry, Mike, if you're listening, I think we're still friends on Facebook, but he was one of the cooks and he bought a new truck and he was like, you're not driving home. I need to drive you home. And I literally lived down the Berlin Turnpike in Newington, 10 minutes. And I woke up in his truck in the parking lot of Hooters. Oops. I was like, why are we here? And he goes, because you drove me all the way to Danbury on 84. And then I realized you had no idea where you were telling me to go. Like we were almost to New York. So he turned around and brought me back until I was awake in the morning and okay to drive home. Jesus. And I threw up in his brand new truck.
Nice.
And, but that was my one time that I feel
got a story like that too.
Still feel kind of bad about that, but I mean, he was a complete gentleman, as far as I know, and got me all the way to wherever I was telling him to go, and literally I was 5-10 minutes down the street.
Nice.
So that's my one time.
That's a good one.
Yeah. That is a good one.
Oh, yeah.
That is a good one. All right, let me get back into mine here.
Got notes?
No. I have a few because every time somebody shares a one time, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot about that time with me. And then I write something down. This is a Dunkin' Donuts crime spree, selling my van to a drug dealer, then stealing it back from him type of story. Okay, so one time.
Cool story.
Hell of a title.
Yeah.
I'm down and out. I have like $1.19 left to my name. It's like 5:30 in the morning, and I'm sitting in the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, and I'm hating life, and I want to die, and I'm never gonna do this again, and I gotta go face the music, and blah 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 blah. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee. I got enough for a small coffee, so I'm gonna go in there get a cup of coffee. I go in there. There's a guy in front of me. He puts $1 in the cup. I look at the cup.
Hey,
man, there's a couple bucks in there for sure. I said, I'm going to steal that shit.
Yeah.
So the guy asked me what I want. I said, yeah, let me get a small coffee. He turns around to go get it. I take the whole thing, shove it in my pocket, get in my car. And I'm like, okay, count it out. I go down the street, count it out. It's like $7. But there's another Dunkin' Donuts down the street.
Gotta get
it's a
that.
hustle, baby.
I literally went to about 6 or 7 Dunkin' Donuts back to back to back.
Donutses.
Donuts. and steals all the
That's
tip
plural.
money. And steals
Steals
all the tip money.
I'll steal this.
And I get some stuff.
Give me this or I take this, gypsy.
Give me your tears, Gypsy, or I will take them.
I will steal.
So I get enough money to get a pretty good chunk, right?
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
Back in action.
love
baby.
life, everything is amazing
Back
again.
on
You know?
top.
I'm not going home now. I have this old Dodge van, 3-speed on the column.
Nice.
I remember I end up
Top
on
speed
French Street.
55.
French Street. You know French Street?
Yeah.
Okay. I end up on French Street. I don't know how I
French Street?
I end up on French Street, and I realized I've smoked crack in that house before. The girl answers the phone. I'm like, hey,
She answered the phone.
you remember? She answers the door. She answers the door. I said, hey, you remember me? She's like, yeah, Dino, what's up? She's like, come on in. I said, yo, you know anybody who buy this van? She goes, there's a drug dealer that lives right upstairs from me. It was a 3-family house. I said, see if he wants to, trade. Okay, cool. He comes down. We look at the van. He said, I'll give you $100 for it. 100 and stuff, right? I said, fantastic. Give him the keys. Whatever. I go in. Boom. Couple hours of there. Now we have no more stuff. I'm like, what am I going to do?
No more stuff and no more van.
No more van, no more stuff, no more Dunkin' Donuts. They're probably looking for me all over the place now. And I kept
you don't have
thinking
the
that
van
too.
anymore.
The whole night, I'm like, the cops are coming for me because I stole all the tips from Dunkin' Donuts. Don't answer the door if anybody comes. So we start drinking, and I come up with this amazing idea.
Oh, boy.
I said, I'm going to go back upstairs, knock on the drug dealers, and say, hey, man, you didn't give me enough. You got to give me a little bit more. I gave you a whole van.
A whole van.
The whole van. It's a big van.
He was like, nah, dude, nah. I said, man, all right, well, dude, I left my house key on that keychain, which I really did. He comes and gives me the keychain. I said, yeah. Now he's just waking up, bro. He's like, oh, here, man, hurry up, man. I want to go back to sleep. I said, yeah, no problem. And I start taking one step downstairs. I'm doing that with the keys. And I said, screw it. Boom. I go down the stairs. He starts chasing me. I get in the thing. I start going. He's hanging on this side. I'm trying to smash, and I'm smashing into a garage, cars. The side view mirrors are popping off the thing. I got away, though. I got away. And I ended up selling the van literally 2 hours later to another drug dealer. And that van came in pretty handy.
$100.
Listen, that van
That's
that I
better
got
than
for
my one time.
I got that van for $60.
Oh, wow.
That's how much I got this van for. $60.
This is like 1947.
No, it was actually the down payment on the van. The dude wanted a lot more, but I blew him off too, and he never got paid. So that van, $60. I got all that Dunkin' Donuts tips. I got 100 piece from that drug dealer, and then I got another 50 piece from the drug dealer that finally got the van and never got it stolen back from him. So that's my one time, bro.
Wow, that's
Amazing.
way better than mine.
Yeah,
Amazing.
they're all horrible.
A little dark.
They're all
A
horrible.
little fucking dark.
Crack brings you to some dark ass shit, man.
So are we about to end?
Yeah.
So I want to just say one quick thing about last week.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons we didn't do the show last week was because, well, Dino had to go see family
Yep.
out of state
Yeah,
and was inconsiderate about his timing.
I was.
But then we had to put a dog down. And the only reason I bring this up is because of my little man Stanley. I miss him to death.
That's right, man.
But it's because in sobriety, as we all know, things happen. And it's going to be bad things, and they're going to suck. But you know what happened? My phone never stopped ringing. This guy never stopped coming around me. This prick never called once.
I would have called.
He never fucking called once.
It's totally not true.
You called after the fucking fact.
Well, I didn't know if it was.
No.
Clear
Shut
enough.
up. Shut it down. So a lot of other friends called nonstop because I have a network of men. You have a network of women, and that's what happens when we get all the way in this thing.
Yes.
You know, there's an old saying that when you got a herd, the ones on the outside get picked off. When you're in the middle, you're safe.
That's right.
And no matter how bad I felt, I'm not going to get into the whole thing with Stanley. The bottom line is we had to put him down. But never once did I think I got to use behind this. Never once did I think I got to drink at this. Because I'm allowed to meet my problems head on today.
Right.
And it's because I'm surrounded with amazing people. It's because I've been allowed to receive all that these programs offer people like us. And I have changed the man that I was. You know, the ironic thing, the day we put him down, the thought for the day was something along the lines of, let me be able to handle the things that I used to run away from. How fucking ironic is that?
It's not odd, man.
No, never odd. It's always God. And,
Always God.
you know, there's so many times that I don't want to be able to show up for life. I don't want to be accountable. I don't want to be dependable. But I can't not be today.
Right.
And that's what has gone on by changing a couple things, man.
Yeah.
You know, so many people get caught up in saying, I could never do what these other people are doing. Well, that's a choice. That's a choice. You're allowed to make it. But as horrible as I felt, my wife felt, you know, we talked it out, man. We were there for each other. We got through it. I'm able to, you know, this is our third dog that we lost in 2 years. And this is I was thinking about her at work one day, and I sent her a text. I said, you know, I've never once said to you, I'm sorry for your loss. Because she's with them dogs.
Yeah.
She works from home. So she's with them every minute of every day. Her connection and attachment is far superior to mine. But I never thought of her enough to say that, you know? So it just goes to show me that no matter how long I've been here, no matter how much work I've done, the more in tune I am, the more other things come to light. You know, to say something like that to her that I never would have said before. So, yeah, I wasn't down to be here last week. I didn't really give one fuck about doing a show.
Yeah.
And that's just being real. I had my hands full with just trying to go to work and maintain and miss him, and that's it.
That's it.
So,
Life.
Yep.
thanks,
That's it,
Jonathan,
man.
for not calling.
You got it.
John's fucking falling asleep over
I
there,
just
man.
did a.
He's like using his headphone for a pillow.
Well,
I just did a recovery support specialist class through Hartford Healthcare, and,
the RSS.
yeah, RSS
Here we
training.
go.
But one of the things I learned, I'm not going to do
jealous.
anything with
I
it,
know all that
but
shit.
one of the things I learned was that most people listen to respond and not to understand. And that just reminded me what you said.
Just talked about that motivation to change today.
Guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comments, sobriety dates, all that stuff. Share the show with people you know. If you need help, let us know. We got guys. We have guys.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, now he wants to wake up.
Whoa.
Time out.
Wait a minute, guys. Did I tell you all that I just fucking finished my master's in mental health counseling this past Monday?
All right.
That's right. Bow to me, Matthew. Bow to
I'll
me.
kick you right in the balls.
That's right.
So you're going to go help people change their life.
Already doing it. Now it's legal.
That's cool, man. Congratulations. It's hard work,
Congrats.
man.
Years
Congrats.
fucking done.
And before we end it,
Haven't we talked about this?
somebody last night
Monday.
that we were talking about a little
What
bit,
the fuck happened 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago?
they keep saying, and I've only known her for a little while now, about a month,
School.
and she keeps saying how hard this is.
I don't know.
Monday.
And I hear that.
Start
But if-
over because I wasn't listening to you.
Yeah. Talking over
Somebody was sharing last night, and I've only known this person for about a month, maybe a little longer.
Okay.
And she always shares on how hard this
Yeah.
is, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm usually not the type of person, and I didn't do it last night either. I'm not the type of person to go up to women just one-on-one. I just don't do that. I don't need any problems, man. You know what I mean? But I always want to say, listen, if you keep saying it's hard, it's going to be hard.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard. I said it's just too hard for over 30 years, and guess what? It was hard. Today
That's what
I
she
say,
said.
this is freaking easy. Way easier than hiding the bottle in the back, the airbags going off,
Stolen vans.
stolen van. Way easier. This is not that hard.
living off the Dunkin' Donuts
Not that
tips.
hard. Yeah, sorry, man. You know, I walk in at Dunkin' Donuts sometimes.
They hide their cups.
Put a little extra
Sometimes I
$5 in there.
I still walk into Dunkin' Donuts.
Picture of himself in certain
Yeah, and I just look at the tips. I'm like, fuck, man, I gotta put a little more in
Yeah,
here.
put a little extra.
I gotta put a little more in here, man.
Pay
You
it
know,
back.
I mean, you know.
Oh,
So
you have to also
yeah, we have to get her to
sign the
sign
wall.
Oh, I would love to sign
There's a
them all.
marker in the crib.
in the crib, in the bassinet,
In the bassinet.
Not meaning the house, meaning the best.
all up in the crib.
The crib.
Yeah.
So again,
Yeah.
guys,
Not that
don't forget to
hood.
like, subscribe,
No, you
share,
gotta
share the
go
people
do
show
that.
with people you
Right
know.
now?
Yeah.
all that stuff. Kerri, thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, she's signing the thing.
If nobody got something out of what you shared, you got something out of it, and you'll stay sober today, and we'll stay sober today because of it. So
If someone didn't get something out of it,
They
didn't
weren't
want
listening.
they weren't listening, man.
That's
they weren't
right.
listening.
To. That's all there
So
is to it.
you sign our wall. I think it's good to go, and I think the only thing I have left to say is thank you for being a friend.
Thank you for being a friend.
Anywhere you want.
Anywhere.
Pick a spot, any spot.
And your sobriety date.